The greatest fighters, the greatest athletes, the greatest leaders, Mike Tyson to Abraham Lincoln, Plato, Mark Twain. I have a lot of teenage boys that reach out to me and they're desperate and they're broken and they're crying. And this is the fault of your school system, your parents who didn't protect you from something so devastating.
This is Water Buffalo TM. Motherfucker! Water Buffalo TM is back with another Buff Talk.
3, 2, 1. Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Old School Matt here. We are back with another Buff Talk Live. Today, we are joined by Heather Nielsen. I actually found Heather on TikTok, just scrolling on my For You page. Her TikTok handle is AddictionRecoveryGirl. She has a super dope page where she helps a lot of guys out with porn addictions and masturbation addictions. Before we get into all of that, let's just welcome Heather to the show. So what's going on, Heather? How's everything going with you?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Well, things are going great. I just recently took a vacation and I'm back to the channel, back to promoting no fap and no porn and all that.
Awesome. So before we get into all the, I guess, juicier stuff, before everybody knows the content that we post out there is kind of like fitness related. And I think there's a lot of kind of mesh in between this type of field and fitness itself. I've been on this no fap wave for almost 4.5 years now. So I know the benefit that it offers. Aside from just the mental benefits, there's a lot of physical benefits as well. But I kind of wanted to get a little bit of a scope on who Heather Nielsen is and what she does on a day-to-day and everything about you. So if you don't mind just telling everybody out there what you do aside from the more juicy type of viral content. So what do you really do? What's your life?
Sure. So yeah, my life is really complicated. It's kind of hard to follow. I am a single mom. I have 3 kids. I homeschool. I have a farm. This is actually a relatively new project, but I started just a couple months ago, but it's really done well. And I've seen a lot of success. What got me interested in doing this, I'll tell you, was basically, I grew up with a stepfather, didn't have my biological father around very much. But both men had addiction problems. And I saw how that kind of affected my home life as a kid. Well, unfortunately, I grew up, went to college, I got married, and the first marriage, again, right in the middle of sexual addiction issues, and ended up leading to some abuse. He really suffered from some of the mental effects of a long-term porn addiction and really messed with his head. So we got divorced. I got remarried. Right back in the same situation, the same symptoms, the same issues, really, really sad. And that stuck with me. You know, we ended up getting divorced again. And now I have 3 kids, right? And I look around me and I'm like, wow, everyone around me, all the men in my life have suffered with this. And I start seeing more family members suffering with these things. And it was just really hard to see. And so I started kind of in my free time, I talked to my guy friends and I'd be like, hey, so how's your porn addiction going? And they're like, what porn addiction? I'm like, oh, don't lie to me. Like, don't lie to me. I know what's up. And they would start opening up and we'd start kind of having these conversations because I didn't want to see them go through what I had been through, you know, especially my friends I was really close to. And as I started seeing progress and like they started, you know, friends started opening up to me more and more, I'd have guys say things like, I've never told another person about this problem,
Mhm.
or I've never told another girl about this problem. They're like, thank you so much. And they started seeing a change in their lives and being able to improve in that way. And so I just kind of realized one day, I want to talk about this more. I want to help more people. I want to grow this because, if one guy says, you're the first person, there's probably more. And I found that now, 50,000 followers later, most people don't feel comfortable talking about this.
100%. Yeah, I think it's a topic that's kind of, it's like a taboo subject. It's like kind of weird to talk to people about this. I think it should be something that should be kind of like mainstream, and we're seeing a lot of change in this aspect of like society and the social aspect. I think there's more people starting to realize the negative side effects, and of course, like later in the podcast, we'll get into all that. But just real quick on the outside of that, I think you're a real estate agent, or you do real estate or something like that on the side.
I do graphics design, web
Graphics
design.
design.
I have been pursuing some political projects, some conferences for religious freedom and things like
Awesome.
that. We did one last year called Mayflower Promise.
Awesome.
Had some senators speak and things like that. So I dabble in a lot of different.
Awesome. And in terms of like the addiction recovery girl, is that something that you're trying to take and scale to make something? Because from what I've seen, I don't really go and look for any of it either. So I might be ignorant to what's out there, but I think you're one of the only people that's a female that's talking about this. There's a lot of guys that talk about NoFap. I kind of talk about it, like maybe very little, just on my own personal experience. I know that that's been a movement that's been going on for a little bit, but in terms of that, are you trying to scale that to make it like what you do from a day to day, or is that something you always want to keep like on the side, something you like one of your many projects?
Yeah, it's definitely. I love it. Let me say that. Occasionally, it is kind of. It comes with its challenges, but it is something that I think right now I would like to do full time. It's definitely my focus of the day, just because of how important it is. And when I look around me, and I've been asking the question for years, because I really have always wanted to change the world. I always want to be an influence for good on others. And I asked the question, what is the most important way I can help change the world right now? And for me, after years of looking into different things that people are doing, I said, this is the thing that could change the world, because
Definitely.
it affects the heart, it affects families, it affects our relationships. And that's really the core of everything.
Definitely. And we could just jump right into it. So in my personal beliefs, I think that this is one of the big factors of why society has kind of downgraded a lot in terms of like the social aspect of how we interact with one another, especially relationships, obviously. So I guess like the first thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about, and we can kind of discuss this, is what negative impacts does this have? Not on just the person, because I think that might be the biggest thing, the mental impacts that it has, but on society. What do you think like the porn industry has done for society in a negative field?
Yeah. 1 second. Let me clean my camera.
Right, you're good.
I want to just edit that out. There you go.
No worries.
That's a little clearer. So that's a really good question. Well, first of all, addiction really affects people across the board. It affects their ability to accomplish things, their creativity. And that's for any addiction. It takes up so much of their time as well. Pornography and masturbation are really different, though, because it affects you at your core. It affects your heart. It affects your ability to connect. The word narcissism 12 years ago, no one used it. I remember when I was in college, it was like, some people had to teach me what that word meant. And now it's just everywhere. We're like, everyone's being called a narcissist. Everyone's throwing the narcissist fingers, and so, but it really does create this kind of wall where we're not able to see others for who they are. The slogan, porn kills love. Well, it's not just about like porn kills relationships. It's pornography kills your ability to empathize. It kills your ability to connect. And even more than that, we see a lot of guys specifically, there's this culture. I was talking to someone about this yesterday, where men have become afraid of being able to reach out to women, being able to talk with them, being able to have relationships. And I see constant videos and TikToks and comments across social media where people are saying, screw it, I don't want a relationship. It's too hard. Like, just forget it. And I think it's really sad that we've gotten to this point, and pornography has a huge effect on that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's bled over into like not just porn, because now we see like OnlyFans, which is like a soft porn, and like Instagram, like and TikTok and whatnot. We have females, and I'm not trying to bash females in any way, but a lot of them like to expose themselves very inappropriately, in my opinion, on social media. Then again, to kind of combat this, I don't care what people do online. Like that's up to you. If you want to post half naked pictures, that's on you. But I think that, and this is just my opinion, I think that like when all this started to come together, I think like the late 70s or maybe even like the 60s, when people started to record, people having sex with pornography, I think that it started to slowly desensitize us to the act of sex in and of itself. And nowadays it seems like, for example, I think it was the Grammys or the Emmys, they were basically having sex with each other on a stage, and people don't really have a problem with that anymore. I personally think it's gross and disgusting, not only for adults, but also for children. Children being exposed to this on a daily now. Back when I was a kid, it's still readily available, but it wasn't as glorified and as normalized as it is now. Nowadays, I feel like basically 50% or 60% of my entire feed, whether it be people I follow or not follow, has some sort of tie to like pornography or sexual exploitation. And I think it has a really bad impact on society, because it's now kind of programming females and males to be desensitized towards the act of sex. And I'm pretty sure you're a Christian. I'm Catholic Christian. So like it kind of goes against the core values of what this country was built on. And obviously, like people have to have sex. Like it's part of our nature, whether that be casual sex or in relationships, that's completely up to you. But I think that nowadays it's just like it's everywhere sort of thing. It's kind of bled into like it being all over the place. And something I think that doesn't really help is that we have experts and doctors and whatnot kind of almost promoting this stuff. I don't know if you've seen the stuff about some business offering masturbation breaks at work and whatnot. And like just these crazy ideas that, maybe 20, 30 years ago wouldn't really have been normalized. But nowadays, and you can get down to a rabbit hole about conspiracies and how they're trying to destroy society. But just on like a base level, I think that it's because we've normalized this and allow ourselves to fall into temptation, that now it's just like a normal thing that's prevalent everywhere.
Yeah. Let me make a few comments. So the first thing you talked about is, let adults do what they want to do. Sure. I'm actually not really for laws explicitly banning pornography, at least not in our society today. I think whatever, I'm not out here to control people. But when it comes to kids, that's where I get really fired up. The difference between today's kids and when we were kids is, yes, it was available. You could Google it and find it on your own, but it wasn't being pushed at you. It wasn't everywhere you look. And now a kid can't open any form of internet browser. I can't open up any form of internet browser without seeing explicit content being pushed in my face. It's the album covers, it's kids artists, and the things that they're doing and saying. And so that's where I have a real big problem with it. Why would you expose children to something addictive? It really damages their minds. And so I am definitely for laws protecting children. If you want to put your stuff on Pornhub, that's fine. But Pornhub needs to be locked down to ID only, adults only. And we need to really tighten up what's allowed public. The next comment you made was on, on morals. So I have kind of an interesting take on this. As you may have noticed on my TikTok channel and Instagram, I touch on religion occasionally, but I don't really push the moral perspective. And here's why. I believe that the nofab, cancel porn movements, the reason why this is important or why these things are bad is based on very scientific information. It's my personal belief as a Christian that, okay, God is science. Like he works with natural law. And that's something we don't hear about enough, I think. And so natural law is just this idea that, like gravity, you don't jump off a cliff and go, oh, shoot, I was supposed to stay in the air. You're going to fall. And it's the same thing with pornography. We can be desensitized to it. Or people try to desensitize is a funny word, but people try to make it okay. but it doesn't change the fact that it has negative effects on people. And this is why we see so many people sexually traumatized. They are changing their genders. They have gender confusion, gender dysphoria. And we're seeing the same thing with sexuality, and people are very confused and struggling. Well, this is why. And so it's a natural law. We have to work with it. And that's why, and then you see all these negative effects come in, and that's why I'm fighting against it so hard. And I promote this message is because people need to understand we can run from morals, but the science is going to catch up with us.
100%.
And it is.
100%. And I kind of wanted to like maybe backtrack a little bit when you're talking about children. Now, I don't know if you've seen this stuff online with a couple schools, I think up north in like New York or something like that, starting to normalize the teaching about masturbation in schools. What's your opinion on all this stuff? And we can kind of talk about the different, I guess, implications this has for society.
Yeah. Well, to state my opinion simply, my children are homeschooled.
Yeah. So mine will be too if I have.
I would rather have them at home with me 24 hours a day, and we fight those battles than to send them to school under those circumstances. I think it's horrible. I think it's tragic. I think that people are trying to justify their own sexuality, their own fetishes, their own desires by pushing it onto children by, it's really frustrating to me. Children don't need, my children, I teach them even with the opposite sex. It's like, oh, you know what? They're cute, but you need to be friends until you're old enough to get married. You need to be friends with a person.
Yeah, of course.
And that's where I go. Like, we need to leave sexuality out of children because, so I have a lot of, teenage boys that reach out to me, and they're desperate and they're broken and they're crying. And that hurts me so much to see, because I'm like, you know what, this is the fault of your school system, your parents who didn't protect you from something so devastating. So that's a start of my opinions. I could go on for a while.
Yeah, 100%. And so in terms of your whole page, when you're talking about addiction recovery, there's obviously like layers to this stuff. There's like at the tippy top will be like someone who's watching porn 2 or 3 times a day, and they're into like X, Y, and Z, and they're buying stuff online, putting their money in, paying for girls' OnlyFans and all this other stuff. And then there's people at the other spectrum, which are like casual guys that, they'll do it once in a while. Maybe they don't watch porn. What's your stance on the whole like porn versus masturbation? Because I think there's like a big divide. I don't do either. I don't watch pornography. I don't masturbate anymore. Like I said, it's been almost 4.5 years since I've done any of that stuff. And what's your like, where do you stand, and where do you like kind of draw a line? You're like, okay, this needs to stop, or what's okay, what's not okay?
Yeah. So, okay, well, this is kind of how I would talk through with somebody that I just met. First of all, pornography is 100% wrong 100% of the time. I make no exceptions about that. Just because of just the mental, social addiction implications, it is just far too high to mess with. Masturbation, I am personally very against it. I know that there are negative health consequences, there are negative emotional consequences. And as there are just this is an addiction, and addictions just have consequences. And we need to be free. If we want to be truly free, we need to conquer ourselves. We need to have self-discipline. We need to do what's right, even when it's hard. And I think all of that comes in. But with masturbation, sometimes I do have to make some exceptions. I know that when guys have been doing it twice a day for the last 3 years, they can't quit. And so we will do like a tapering off, because I'm like, I don't want you to get so blocked up that you're like, can't walk for a week. And so in those cases, I'll say no more porn, but if you need to slowly taper off the masturbation, don't tell me about it, do what you need to do.
Got you. No, and I think that's a good way to start. I've influenced actually some of my friends. And like we were saying earlier, it's kind of for you, maybe it's a little bit easier now, because like this is kind of what you're known for. But like to a regular person like myself, who I don't really, let's say, specialize in this stuff, it's kind of a hard conversation to have with somebody. But I think it's a necessary one to have. because the people that I have put on this trend of, let's just call the trend nofap, they've seen tremendous changes, not only in their physical, that's the first thing people tell me. I have like 3 or 4 friends that are doing it now. They're like, dude, I have incredible amount of energy now throughout the day. And I've never looked this shredded in my whole life. Like I worked out before, but like, dude, like I can push harder in the gym. I can lift more weights. I'm more focused. But then there's also the, I guess, emotional benefits to it as well, is that you feel almost like, not that like you're better than everybody else, because I don't want to seem like I'm better than anybody. I'm a human being like everyone else, but you kind of almost see yourself as like a more mature version of your past self. You're like, all these people are falling into this confirmation bias, which I feel like is horrible because, like I was saying earlier, there are certain medical doctors, I would even say the majority of them, who kind of almost promote this in a sense. They say, okay, studies show that if you masturbate once a week or whatever, once a day, you end up being 30% more productive, blah, 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 blah. And they're throwing all these statistics, which I don't even know where they get them from to begin with, because everybody that I have seen who's done nofap or who has stopped watching porn have only talked about the benefits, and no one said, man, I stopped doing this and I hate it. If you can get someone to do it, they love it. And it comes to a point where once you, and what I've experienced is, for my personal self, the first couple months is hard. I had a girlfriend during that time, so it helped. And then the next couple months and like maybe the next year or two, it's like you kind of think about it once in a while. But then after a certain period, you're like, 2 years in, you almost feel like disgusted by the act. You don't even think about it anymore. It doesn't even pop up. It hasn't popped up in my brain in years. Whenever that I see it online, I almost feel like if I were to see somebody on social media get beat up for no reason, I would feel disgusted. The same way if I were to see, pornography on social media, I almost feel like a disgust towards it. And I feel like that's something that, this might be a little bit of an extreme view, and I don't know if you can agree on this, but I feel like that's almost the mindset we should strive for, because sex, in my opinion, should be between, a man and a woman. And if you want to get into, whatever, let's just say partner and partner to be inclusive for everybody. I think that, when you feel disgusted by other people recording themselves doing these crazy sexual acts, you feel like it's almost a disgrace to the actual act of sex itself. And you feel almost a little bit of like a disgust towards it, because you're like, wow, this is supposed to be something that's special between me and my partner. And now people are just putting it out all over the place, doing these crazy acts online. And it's like, hey, that's not cool. Just like, watching someone get beat up online isn't cool as well.
Yeah. So I see this progression when I work with people, where we do have to we have to break down a lot of that and start seeing, I tell people, start seeing pornography for what it really is. Not this friend that you've turned to when you're, sad, lonely, depressed, bored. It can't be that friend anymore. It has to become what it really is, which is, it's a chain. It's a ball and chain. It's holding you down. It's holding you back. It's wrecking your health. To me, it's very abusive, especially, on my channel, I have a lot of strippers and OnlyFans girls, and some very popular. One girl has 1 million followers, and she just shredded me the other day in my video. And
What'd she say?
She just comments every now and then telling me how like I'm just jealous that men like her. And I'm like, it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about where we're trying to get as a society. We're trying to be healthy. Yeah, you can have men in your strip club, but I want families to be together. I want people to have that one partner that loves them. And we're seeing, just the implications on people dating and trying to find relationships is just so tragic with this. So anyway, I see this process as people are trying to quit, where, like you were saying, those first 2 weeks are really hard. I tell everyone the first 2 weeks, it just pretend like you have the flu, because you're going to have a lot of weird symptoms. You're going to have days of depression. You're going to have days of anger, frustration. You're going to feel, some tension. You're going to feel weird stuff happens to your body because you're coming off of that dopamine cycle that you've been on, and you're going to have withdrawals. After that, it's around the 2 week mark that people really start saying that, wow, I'm really happy. And I know when people, if they can get to 2 weeks, people start telling them things like, and I have a lot of clients telling me this. My mom came up to me today and she's like, why are you so happy lately? you look happier. My girlfriend's wondering what I changed because she can just tell there's a difference and it's making her so happy. And some guys I've had 2 or 3 guys at least, come up to me, or they'll say, you know, I'm at the gym and I'm noticing like girls are noticing me, and then they're like smiling at me when I go places. And I'm like, yeah, that's because the light is coming out. You're happier, you're brighter. You don't have this kind of dark fog inside of you right now. And so that's really, really cool to see. I really enjoy getting those texts, you know,
100%.
it brightens my day.
Definitely. Now you mentioned something about a boyfriend and girlfriend. Now I know that you're against this for men and women, but in terms of the women's side of things, I feel like that's something, you know, and kind of just to like give a little backside to what I'm about to say. Like I have no problem with the whole the idea of equality for men and women. Obviously, I think women should be able to do everything a man can do. Obviously, drive, go to work, get a career, whatever, become a CEO. But I think with the female liberation in society, this whole feminist movement, whatever is going on, I think that it's kind of incorporated this, I guess, acceptance for women to also do these things as well, watch pornography, use sexual devices, whatever, all that stuff that comes with it. You're also against that, obviously, but the approach I'm assuming is a little different towards women. And in your estimation, how have you seen the differences between men and women in their addictions towards this stuff?
Yeah, so I definitely focus on men just because it's easier for me to just have my one path, and
Yeah.
I know it really well. But I do work with some women from time to time, and um, it's very similar. I think the root cause of it is very similar. The effects are similar. I think women have a little bit easier when it comes to the physical side of it. But a woman's withdrawals can be bad too. Um, Ultimately, though, there's just something to be said for the fact that it comes down to that self-discipline and that desire to really stick with what's right. And now when I say right, I'm not preaching Christian doctrine here. I'm saying to do what's right for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
for society, um, at large. And these things, because they're so toxic, it's affecting people. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, and like what you just said for society, we are the reason why this happens. It's not like this just goes on without us putting in. The society has to put into the porn websites, the OnlyFans, for it to function. Without us giving any into it, they're not going to get anything out of it. You know, the less people that do these type of things, the harder that industry is going to struggle. And not to take away from what these people do, I'm sure it's a lot of work when you get into the job site. I know I've seen a couple of podcasts where they talk about the actual setup and all this stuff, and like talking about, you know, it's real hard work. I'm sure it's hard work. I'm sure it's not easy to do, you know, what porn stars do, but I think that, you know, it all boils down to society, and obviously men do it a lot more than women. So really, you know, the men, and I do another entity, we call it Red Pill Latinos, where we talk about it. I'm just going to use this term, not in a derogatory term, but a lot of these simps online who just give into this, they pay, you know, large percentages of their income to watch girls online, to, you know, pay super chats or whatever, or buy OnlyFans or buy subscriptions, or, you know, pay for these girls via, you know, whatever it is, PayPal or Cash App. And I think that it's this that's allowing society to continue the popularity of these trends. What do you think? What do you think about like us giving into it, and what would be your overall solution if you can kind of formulate one on the fly?
Yeah. So when I talk about these things, I always use the terms we and us, because it is we are in this together. You know, it's like the father that didn't raise his daughter right because he had problems. Now the daughter is a single mom who's raising her kids to not have the same moral upbringing. And it's the woman who's been abused and raped by men, and the man who's been cheated on so many times he's broken. And it comes down to a redirect towards morals. We have to incorporate those in society, and I see it as almost being dead.
Yeah.
And so as we all start to work on this and we say, okay, we need to redirect, we need to rewire, and it's helping, it's reaching out and helping your friends. It's saying, hey guys, like, this is what I'm doing. But it like you said, there's just so many layers to overcoming this problem. There's kids, protecting kids better, protecting the family. But ultimately that family, a strong family unit, is the best way to
attack the problem. I
protect
100%.
all of us, to protect the husband, wife, children, and make everyone happy.
100%. I think that what you said too, like morals, I don't think society has morals anymore. I'm not saying that it always has had morals. I just think that the scope of things in terms of the social aspect, how we interact with one another, has definitely changed. And I'm not just saying this is all due to pornography. Maybe a large percentage has to do with it or whatever it might be. But I think that we just don't set any values or morals anymore in society, which is, it's obviously a bad thing. I think comes with freedom. We become more free as individuals, which is a good thing. Freedom to pursue your dreams, pursue your goals, go to school, do whatever you like is great. But with freedom also comes a bad side of freedom, because if you're free, you have either the freedom to kind of like, be an achiever, be someone who's going to go start a good family, influence others, but you also have the freedom to waste your time, be negative, get into negative bad habits, which, drug addictions, porn addictions, all of the above. So I think that, just as society has become more free, it's brought a lot of good, but has brought maybe double the bad. I don't know what you think about this, but.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I really, I study and promote the Constitution a lot. And one of the things I've been studying and researching lately has actually been 19th century etiquette. It's kind of weird and cheesy, but follow me for a second.
Yeah.
And I've been reading all of these books that are 100, 150 years old about etiquette and how people used to live differently. And it's interesting because in these books, they talk about it with a tone of, if you want to be free, this is how you should live. That's how the Constitution was written. If you want to be free, govern yourself, and we can all be very, very free. And the further we get from that, the more we have to restrict and create laws to control people. And try to follow me. All right. So back to the freedom. Personal freedom comes from things like freedom from addiction, right? And then when we look at families, there's things that work and there's things that don't work. A father leaving doesn't work. Single moms don't work. This is not a system that actually works for society. And it's affecting us at a government level because we have more single moms than ever before. We're having to pay for those single moms. There are a lot of them. There are women who, like myself, like, we're able to manage.
Yeah, and I'm going to interject real quick. Even though that you are a single mom and you are, for the most part, successful, I'm sure that you struggle a lot as well. It's not the easiest road. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Because my kids, it's been over a month since they had interaction with an adult male. And I have 2 boys. They're getting older. They need interaction with adult males. And it's really sad for me to see the fact that it's such a, it's a stereotypical this generation lifestyle where you have a man gets in a relationship, has problems, the grass is greener on the other side because he's been watching all this porn, the narcissism, the abuse, he's going through guilt cycles. He's having a hard time sticking with the marriage. He doesn't feel good enough for the marriage. The woman, women have their things too. Maybe the woman's watching porn. I know a lot of couples. I've been coaching couples who they both start watching porn together. Their relationship falls apart. They both get into weird, kinky fetishes that the other person can't satisfy. And now we're getting a divorce and the children are suffering. Meanwhile, both people are crying in different beds in different houses, missing the other person. And all of that could have been avoided by, let's follow this system that works.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I was going to kind of switch the tone of the podcast, not switch the tone, but kind of shuffle into a point you hit, relationships. And nowadays, how that kind of structures into society, it kind of ties into the whole porn thing. So like the first thing you just said is when couples watch pornography together, I think that's extremely like damaging to a relationship. I would never do it. If my partner ever asked me to do it, I would leave them in the instance. But you know, like, is this something that you see that's normal? Because I've been aware of it, but the more and more that I've been exposed to the darkness side of social media, because on my TikTok, I kind of critique a lot of people in a funny way, but also in a serious way. And I'm kind of like on my For You page, I'll see a bunch of weird stuff because I'm commenting on a bunch of weird stuff. Weird to me and you, normal to society. But is this something you've seen like that's come up a lot? And like what type of problems have you seen it kind of introduced to a relationship?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because people will comment on my TikToks like me and my partner watch it together, and I'm like, okay, but what you don't know is that within the next 2 to 3 years, you will not be watching it together because you will not be together.
Yeah, 100%.
And I see that a lot. People do come to tell me we started out watching it together and everything fell apart. I don't know what happened, and I'm like, I do. Yeah. You shouldn't have been doing that. That's not normal and natural. One of the ways that I explain this to people is that biologically, if you look in the animal kingdom, across all of the animal kingdom, there are a number of species that pair for life. You see this a lot with birds, just different creatures like albatross and, penguins, they mate for life, right? And those are just animals in the animal kingdom. Now, when you take that mate away, like a wolf, away from its lifelong bonded partner, it goes through a depression. It goes through grief. Humans, 5,000 times more, right? We cannot handle a breakup. We could have known someone for a month, and that breakup can hit hard, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so this is just like this very basic example of how deeply as humans we want to connect with one person.
Definitely.
And we have to honor that. And part of honoring that is having that monogamous relationship and bond. And when it's honored, it can be very fulfilling and last decades and decades or the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
When we
100%.
don't honor that, something falls apart and we don't even have to understand why.
100%.
Modern science can't explain why. The doctor's trying to push this stuff saying it's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. They can say that, but within a few years, it will crumble.
So just kind of like following up on what you said with the whole doctors preaching, non-monogamous relationships. I think that, I've been exposed in South Florida. Thank God my parents are not a part of this, but it's a big culture to be like swingers down here. And that's something that's being normalized in society as well. Do you know what a swinger is? I'm assuming you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So where does this stem from? Like, do you know where it stems from? And like, what are the implications of these type of relationships in society, and how are they destroying the norms that society has put out so that we can sorry, someone called me. What are the norms that these are portraying in society, and how is it detrimental towards relationships in your estimation?
So like swingers and open relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, first we have to look at the root cause. And I think the root cause is a lot of brokenness. Mm-hmm. And you have to start there. And it's not something that I'm going to be like, oh, you guys are horrible people. For me, the question starts of why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. Why aren't you able to connect with a person in a biologically human way? Like this is what humans want. And so normalizing that, I remember, I used to go country dancing, and at this one country bar, there was this girl, and she was, I guess, I don't know, maybe she did some stripping, I don't know, but I sat and talked with her quite a few times. She was a regular, and she told me that she was in an open relationship, right? And her man was deployed, but he was totally cool with him. When he came home, like they had another girl living with them, but then she was also seeing another dude. And it's funny, as I got to know her and I watched this, sure enough.
Yeah, divorce.
Husband's gone, girl's gone, the other dude's now the main dude. And it's just like, wow, did you really want that? Did that make you happy? I think people don't know what makes them happy anymore. And some of that numbness that comes from pornography.
I was going to say, it's like, it makes them happy in the moment, but long-term happiness does not exist with these relationships because I've seen it firsthand. I don't have to have data science tell me that maybe monogamous relationships are dead, with these science. Listen, I'm all for science. I have a fitness brand, and all the supplements and all the different things we do are based off of some sort of science. But I think that the term science is being very politicized nowadays. And this is a whole rabbit hole you can get down with the whole transgender movement and all this other stuff. But science sometimes does not weigh as much as personal experience, because out of the open relationships I have seen and I have experienced, there's been a lot of drug abuse, a lot of physical abuse, a lot of leaving, coming back, leaving, coming back, messed up households. So as somebody who sees a study online that says, oh, this could work for your relationship, versus seeing it in multiple relationships firsthand, I don't understand why people can't grasp the concept of you're seeing it with your eyes, but you're believing experts that preach this type of stuff for whatever their motive is. And that's a whole nother conversation, obviously. But I think you hit it on the nail really well. I wanted to ask you one last question about relationships, and then we'll jump on to your topic because you wanted to pull something up. What is your opinion on dating apps? Because I have a very strong belief on this, but I kind of wanted to hear after we had this discussion what your thoughts on this and whatnot.
Oh, I hate them. I've been single for 2.5 years. I live in the middle of nowhere. So, yeah, not going to meet anyone in person either. I think that, I don't think that they're super effective. Mm-hmm. They're not really programmed for us to be able to find people and connect with them. It creates a lot of stress and anxiety in people. I actually have a lot of clients who have to quit dating apps because it's such a trigger for them. It triggers loneliness. It triggers kind of this shallow nature. Not to mention, like, depending on what app you use, they can be really trashy as well. And so it's just like, it's encouraging the hookup culture.
Yeah, 100%.
And this hookup culture is really dangerous because, again, it's going against our human nature of we want to bond with somebody for life. And too many people are wasting their time going from hookup to hookup until they feel dead and they feel numb. Mm-hmm. And I hate seeing that, and until they can't commit. And so now we have all these guys that are like, they'll hook up, they'll whatever they do, however far it goes. And then they're like, oh, I'm out of here. It's like, well, did you like the person? Yeah. You were attracted to them? Yeah. So where are you going?
Yeah, 100%.
And it's just really dangerous. And so
no, I'm like totally against dating apps. I think that in theory, like how socialism and communism in theory sounds great, but when you put them into actuality and the way that society works based off of human emotions, I think that dating apps are probably one of the most detrimental things towards relationships. Because maybe 1 out of the 1,000 people you have on a dating app, or 100 or whatever it might be, a statistic, might be a good fit for you, or might be a good person to you, or might just be a good person in general.
You have no way of knowing that from a picture.
100%. But the chances you're taking with dating these women or men on dating apps is 9 out of 10 people, or 99 out of 100 people on these apps are more than likely there to do 2 things: either just have a good time and hook up for a couple of weeks and then they're off, or just have a one-night hookup or whatever it might be. I think that it's a really dangerous environment for people with good intentions, because like you said, they're going to get hurt really quickly, and then they're going to fall back into this thing. Well, maybe he wasn't the right one. Swipe left. Or maybe she wasn't the right one. Okay, next person. And little do you know, now they have had 15, 20 sexual partners, and they're damaged from all this, hookup culture that they've been through. And they've been through so many people that when they find the right person, they have a lot of emotional catching up to do, per se. And it just throws everything off. I think it's a terrible way to date. I think that, like I said, in practice, in theory, it can work maybe 1 out of, I don't know how many times, but it's not very likely that it will work in a long lasting relationship, in my personal beliefs.
And having too many options, it gives us this
false sense of like
this block of, having, when you have too many options, it's hard to choose. It becomes impossible. And it takes it, it's kind of in its own way, its own kind of form of porn. You're just picking
100%.
people off of how they look.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way of really knowing what kind of connection you could form. And so you have thousands of faces.
100%. And no disrespect to anybody who's on dating apps for like a main purpose of trying to get into a long-term relationship.
Right.
Like, God bless you, and I hope you find happiness and whatever. But just to be blunt and real, and Heather and I don't know each other super well. What happened?
I said, wish us luck.
Heather and I don't know us super personally, super well, but like, I'm pretty blunt, by the way, I have to see things. I just feel like everybody, or like the majority of people on dating apps, carry some sort of like malintention. Majority, not everybody. Malintention of just being there for purely hooking up, purely to have a good time, purely to get somebody to do something for them, to please them, either sexually or financially. And really, the good people on there really just waste their time and find it really hard to even find a connection. Like I said, and like I tell people on my other stuff with the red pill community I do, and that's what we're going to get into next. But I tell them, like, it's better to meet somebody in person than take the chance of meeting, 9, 10, to whatever amount of women before you find a good one, which might never even come. So.
Yeah. And you can pick up on those cues a lot faster meeting someone on person than
100%.
Instagram.
100%. But Heather wanted to get into a topic before we close out the podcast. She had a list. You said someone sent you a list about the red pill community. And just to give you like a little bit of an overview, I am a part of a red pill community called Red Pill Latinos. There's some things that we say and we disagree upon. I'm more of a traditional conservative type of person who knows the ins and outs, or knows like what the dating culture is like in my age group. So I give them that insight. I'm not necessarily like a lot of red pill guys are into like polygyny or something like that, where they have multiple girlfriends and like being a player. I'm not into all that. I'm on board with what you said. I think a good family, a strong family, a masculine man, a feminine woman is important for a child's development and important for their individual development as people, husband and wife, respectfully. But let's get into what you wanted to pull up, and we'll go at it.
Yeah. So in this whirlwind of ideas, we have more people being vocal than ever before. Like, everyone can share their thoughts, their ideas, their book, their podcast. And we have, I guess we've kind of lost something in that, where there's almost too much chatter and not enough truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am in the same place where I believe I consider myself to be very pro men. I want men to be at the head of the family in a way, partnership, but I want men to lead, and I want to see men be able to step up and take that place in society without fear. Yeah. Right now, there's a lot of toxicity coming from feminism, coming from exactly what you touched on, which is this attitude of almost get as many women as you can. Kind of like the hookup culture, and it's almost like a mask for true masculinity. Yeah. I don't really like the toxic masculinity thing. I think that's more of a marketing campaign to put down men than anything, is how I feel about it. But for me, I guess, let's see, that true masculinity is, I guess, my goal. Yeah. So I have here a couple of these kind of false or misled ideas that kind of come up. One of them is the fear that women are just trying to use men for money. They'll leave them when it's convenient. Gold digging. All women are like that. So what are your thoughts on that? I hear that a lot from men. So men who are in that fear mindset.
Yeah. I think that a lot of dudes are almost damaged a little bit by prior relationships. And I can even say that I'm damaged. I'm sure you are too, as well, have been in 2 marriages. A lot of guys are damaged by past relationships and have seen it happen in their personal life before. Me even being one of them. I've had that happen to me in my past relationship, kind of like a leech. So I think it's like a protection method towards this happening to them again. Now, I think everybody should be giving a chance. Every new partner, hopefully you find the right person. I think, kind of tying back to what we just said, there's so many options that we don't look for the best quality that we can, because we know that if it's not this one, I have another one, this one, this one. I think this abundance mindset of trying to date and have sex or whatever, hook up with as many people as possible, is the worst thing, not only socially, but I think for your personal success as well. Whether you sleep with one female your entire life or 1,000 females, I would go with the person. I would much rather see one person sleep with one girl his whole life and be happy or whatever, married, and reach all of his goals, be able to be at peace of mind and be able to say, you know what, I have a business I want to grow. I have a career I want to be successful in. You know, I have this, I have that, you know, financials, and be successful there, than a guy who's a player. And I've been in this culture. I've never really immersed myself, thank God, into that with like the whole hookup culture when I went to school, when I went to university. But, you know, to me, and I'll even shoot my guy friends down or my acquaintances, because I don't really befriend people that are like this. But when they go talk about, you know, I slept with this girl, I have this girl's number, I'm gonna, you know, I think that's the dumbest thing in the world. I think it's something that guys use to try to up their ego. And I put people in their place. I completely disagree with having a large amount of sexual partners in your life. I think that's very damaging towards someone's personal, how they process things, how they process emotions and love. I think that the least amount of people you can be with, but at the highest quality, is the way that we should all go through. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to marry somebody and stay with them forever. That's not really, you know, reasonable. I would say that there is a good, I don't know what that number is. It's for whoever's out there is listening to determine, but I think there's a good range where you can keep it, you know, at the quality woman, at the quality man. And you can find, you know, you don't have to sleep with 40 girls in a year to make it feel like you've been successful. In my opinion, someone who does that is a loser, and they have insecurity issues, and they don't just have enough going on, because at the end of the day, you know, with the whole, and like I said, I'm part of a red pill page, part of a red pill community. The whole, you know, let's see how many girls we can have sex with in 1 year. It takes a lot of time to do that. You know, it's like, you got to get their phone number, you got to communicate with them, you got to take them out, which is wasting your money. And for you to just go and hook up with them once or twice is taking away time that you could be spending on yourself, getting your financials right, getting yourself, you know, getting your investment portfolio correct, getting your business started, getting your job, getting the raise you always wanted. So it's just a big waste of time. I think it's very toxic. And I went off a little rant, but that's basically my perspective on that.
Yeah. And, you know, even with NoFap, even if we take out the hookups and the pornography, even with NoFap in general, you lose so much personal power and energy,
yeah,
with your mind just on sex all day long.
Yeah, I know.
And I kind of touched on this earlier and maybe I got sidetracked. But if we look back, there was kind of a golden age in America where we were pursuing excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at like the founding fathers, which those real men, I mean, no, I don't think anyone can deny those men had it together. They would have multiple degrees in art, literature, architecture. They ran farms, they owned businesses, they started the country, and they went to war. And I want to see that in men. And part of the problem is if we're so now, I don't criticize people who are in this place of addiction. Mm-hmm. Probably should have even started the whole podcast with that. It's more about how can we help everyone get out of it?
Yeah, 100%.
We want to be able to help men, help women start pursuing excellence. And so like these strippers that come, they're like, look at this big bag I got of cash. I have all this money. It's like, you're not really pursuing excellence as a human being. Taking your clothes off is the most, it's like, it's so small compared to what we can do.
Yeah, 100%.
In society like that, that it's meaningless. It's pointless. It's useless.
100%. I think a lot of the females in that OnlyFans type of, I'm just using that to classify, you know, females that do whatever extra activities for extra money. Even some men do it as well. I think they have a lot of good talents. Like they have a lot of things going for themselves. Just that's the harder route to take, you know, and people are afraid of hard work. I think that's what it really comes down to. People are afraid of long-term fulfillment for that instant gratification of the $1,000 nights, or, you know, he just paid me 10 grand to send him a picture of my toes while I was naked or whatever it might be. I think that we've programmed society to benefit from instant gratification because we have people backing that. There are men out there that are willing to give a girl upwards of 6 figures. I've even seen on these crazy things for a naked picture of themselves. So I don't necessarily blame them. Obviously, if someone put six figures in your face and like, hey, I'm going to give you 100 grand for a naked picture, people are going to have thoughts about saying, you know, should I do it? But I think that, you know, me and you as Christians, we know that, you know, the devil is very, he hides goodness in badness. So he'll show you something good, but it'll really be deceptive. I think that people don't realize this can have many, many damaging effects for someone's long-term fulfillment, happiness in life because of that short-term, you know, instant boost of, you know, whatever 100,000 or 1,000, whatever it might be for money. But that's my opinion on that.
Well, again, long term, it's about who are you becoming as a person.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's that's another topic. You know, I know Art of Manliness really focuses on that, or at least did for a long time. You know, there's other podcasts that do that as well, and it's just focusing on that. So you talked about this simp culture, and I want to go into that. Mm-hmm. And this is something that obviously you have to, I don't like that word. I don't know, just because sometimes it's used for good guys who are actually legitimately pursuing a healthy relationship.
Yeah, we don't have to agree on everything. And I think we are going to end up agreeing, but go for it.
Well, I was just going to use that because you mentioned kind of this, and we won't label it with any particular word, but men who are struggling with pursuing fantasy women, which is what I think this is. The men who are throwing their money at this online woman, right? And one of the things that, again, like I have to break down with people in this conversation is, why are you doing that? You could have a real relationship.
100%.
And there's so many fears that go into that and whatever. And it takes a lot, but I really struggle with that. It breaks my heart because I'm like, why? You know, why are you going there?
Yeah, I think it's like a 50-50 split. So like, I think that the fact that there are women that are, you know, portraying themselves as something, but then when they get into a relationship, they are the complete opposite. Because as bad as men are, there are equally an amount of bad women out there that are treating men improperly. And I think that the reason why the red pill community uses the term simp, the way I think of a simp is, at the end of the day, I think that everybody should have personal goals and personal successes that they strive to achieve on a daily basis, if not on an hourly basis. I think that's really the key to a happy life is, you know, what makes you really happy? If you're an artist, are you taking the steps it takes to, let's just say you want to become an artist, you want to go sell art in Miami, for example, I'm in Florida. Are you taking the steps to doing this? You know, do you have a job where you're, you know, working during the day and then at night, are you spending your time working on your craft? For you would be, you know, growing your page or growing your business with the therapeutic side of the masturbation, pornography stuff. Are you taking time, which I know you are, I'm just asking this question to people. And for me, a simp would be somebody who is taking all of their time, all of their resources, all of their energy, and investing it into somebody who is evidently not worth it. And it's really easy 9 out of 10 times to see if somebody is not worth it. And we've all been here with.
I think it's more than one person. I think when it's more dangerous when it's, it's one thing if it's this one person that they're pursuing, whatever. Okay. You know, we all get our heart set on things, but it becomes really dangerous when it's these online women.
Oh yeah, that's the extreme case, but it's become more normalized. Yeah, 100%.
And it can really disrupt a person. So I also work with people who have findom addictions, and that for me is by far the most dangerous of all of the addictions.
I've seen that word, and honestly, this podcast is going. I'm going to definitely chop this up into two parts because I think we're talking about a lot of good stuff. But what does that mean? I have no idea what that means.
So findom is financial domination. A lot of the time it is not even sexual. When I've had clients send me the findom videos they're watching, it's more of a mental trance, hypnosis type thing. A lot of times
it's like when the female takes control or something like that. Is that what it means?
Female takes control, and it's basically getting off to sending money.
Oh,
so they hypnotize you and get you to send all your money. And it's very dangerous and very toxic. But what I've learned from that is any kind of, and this isn't just findom, this is any kind of dominatrix porn, this is any kind of like giantess or any of this stuff where we have these images.
I'm just gonna say, thank God I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm sure it's not. It's not a.
I don't watch this stuff, but I do know from what people tell me, and I'm always.
Of course, yeah, you work with them.
Oh
every
my
day.
gosh, like for real.
Yeah.
I'm
sure there's crazy shit out there. I know people have sex with animals and stuff like that. So I don't know. You know.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, we're all
another thing. So it spills out of porn too. So let's look at this. This is kind of one of those toxic attitudes that's just developing among men. I'm not even going to say red pill anymore, but just developing or spreading out throughout men. And we have like these superhero movies where now women are kicking men's butts. I'm like, in what plane of reality could that possibly happen? But it's really mentally traumatizing people. It's traumatizing young boys to be afraid of men, especially with these other types of dark porn. As they get further and further into it, the images that they see, the hypnosis that they experience can become so damaging that they lose touch with reality, that 99% of women are actually like pretty small and helpless.
Yeah.
Not that we're helpless, but
I know what you mean. You're like,
right. Largely speaking, like it's just really distorting the relationship.
Yeah, the reality
between
of
a man and a woman, which is ideally, I do have traditional views, but I think almost anyone can agree with this, that if there's a man and a woman in a relationship, the man is the protector. 9 times out of 10, you know, maybe they both provide together, which is becoming more, you know, it's pretty normal at this point. But largely the man is expected to provide. There are still very few relationships where the woman's like, oh, I'll provide everything, you just stay at home. Yeah. That doesn't really happen. So we do have this idea that the man is the protector, he is the provider. And I think that's very healthy. It goes along with human nature. 100%. It goes along with our abilities and our roles. One thing that I think is really important is fathers. Scientifically, we've studied this, and I studied this in college studying marriage and family sciences, that fathers have the unique ability to teach morals in their home better than women, period. If a father teaches their child a moral or a way of life, a value, a virtue, it will stick better than if the mother teaches it. And so we have these unique differences, and there are plenty of statistics that show the difference between the way a man and a woman thinks. A man is going to be more logical, a woman's going to be more emotional. And we have to use those instead of trying to fight against it. Yeah. We need to use human nature to our advantage.
100%. I totally agree. I think that that these things are these, I guess, ideas in society that we're letting manifest from fantasy to reality nowadays is really harmful. But just to kind of close out that thought on the word simp, the only reason why they use it is because I think it's like a catchy phrase. It's something to catch people's attention. And if you check out the red pill content that we make or that I make, I don't really make it on my personal page too much on like Instagram, but I have a part of a community where we're not part of this red pill culture where it's just hate woman and like, you know, go bag as many girls or bang as many chicks as you can. I don't believe in that. And we've explicitly talked about it. I think the red pill
masculinity then.
Yeah. What happened?
Like you're supporting more of that true masculinity.
Yeah. Traditional masculinity. I don't support any of the red pill guys out there that are preaching like, you know, how to go pick up as many girls as you can. I think that that's loser culture. I think that's really harmful. And I think that it's just at the end of the day, it's a waste of time. And I don't think people realize how much time they waste on these fantasies like pornography, like, you know, seeing how many women they can sleep with in a year, how many phone numbers they can get. Before you know it, your life is going to be behind you. You're going to be 32 years old. Yeah, you've had sex with 100 girls in your life, but you know,
you're still alone.
What?
You're still alone.
Yeah, you're still alone. And you like, what have you accomplished? Maybe some guys come out being these, you know, baller millionaires making a lot of money, but you know, at the majority of these guys that do these things are wasting paycheck to paycheck to take out 5 chicks to dinner every week. And like, they wonder why they don't have money or why they, you know, oh, dude, starting a business is so hard. You know, like I don't have the time for that. Well, you would have the time if you would take the time away from indulging yourself in these quick instant gratification type of activities and put it into something more long-term fulfilling. Anyways, guys, so as we close out the podcast, just want to thank Heather for taking the time to coming on Buff Talk Live. This is a little bit of a different type of podcast. We're our fitness brand, but I feel like, the whole masturbation and porn and all these things that tie into just making yourself a better person is a part of your personal fitness. But before we go, Heather, do you have any, last words you want to talk about? Anything you want to tell the viewers out there? Because especially, our viewership and like as a personal human being that represents this brand, obviously people know that I'm like the owner, the person who runs all this stuff. I have a lot of friends of mine who are really into that stuff. They talk about their favorite porn star, and it's become a culture where it's like almost, like a cool thing. Oh, you watch her, you check her out. So what's your message to those guys? And then even if anyone watching this podcast that feels like they want to reach out to you, where can they reach out to you and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So, well, first, what I would say to those guys is, give it a chance. Just take it from the people who have quit. Take it from the people who have experienced the benefits. We're not over here lying, and it's not easy. It's not always easy. There are definitely hard days to it, but long-term, the benefits are real. On my website, which is actually PO/FAP Accountability, you can go to AddictionRecoveryGirl on Instagram or TikTok to find me, link over, whatever, or it's PO/FAP Accountability.com. There's an article on there that I have of the 57 of the world's greatest men against pornography and masturbation.
Really?
And their quotes are inspiring. It's real. This is not a modern Christian thing. This is the greatest men in the history of the world, the greatest fighters, the greatest athletes, the greatest leaders.
Could you name one of them? I'm curious to see who's on that list.
Oh man. Let me see. I mean, anyone from Mike Tyson to Abraham Lincoln, back to, I think it was Plato, Mark Twain.
Wow, they were all
Gandhi.
against pornography or masturbation?
Yeah. It's I have a list of 57. It's the most comprehensive list you can find on the internet. Awesome. There's scattered ones throughout NoFap websites, and I have quotes from most of them explaining why it's wrong, why you shouldn't do it. And take a look at that. These men they were intelligent, they were leaders, they changed the world. And so, just give it a try. Just see. I have kind of a challenge to people where I'm like, oh, if you don't think you're addicted, write down on a piece of paper, I'm going to go 14 days without it, without changing my mind. If you change your mind in that 14 days, you're addicted. Your brain is addicted. That's why you changed your mind. If you can't commit to something for 14 days, you're addicted, and you need to look at why and how it's, you threw in the fitness stuff. It's going to affect your fitness. It's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect your testosterone. Mm-hmm. And so really buckling down and saying, I gotta look at this and then check out my website. I've got personal articles on there as well of people who have quit. I've got science articles on there. So good stuff. And you can contact me through that website too, if you're interested in finding more about, what those benefits are, what the process looks like. A lot of guys have been trying to quit for years even. Mm-hmm. And, I'm able to help kind of guide you through that process of, here's what the withdrawals are going to look like. Here's what you can do when you're hard and you don't know what to do and things like that. So
100%. And I just want to hit on this last little thing. Like when you said, take 14 days to quit something, it's not like, you're changing a habit to where like, okay, I'm going to tell you to go to the gym for 14 days, but I have to find 2 hours out of my day to go to the gym. This is something that'll actually save you time. So if you're spending an hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, there's no time excuse for this. It's a willpower excuse. And if you can't do it, you have a problem with, like you said, addiction. And it's,
or I tell people, if you change your mind, because we never quit, we change our minds.
Yeah, 100%. And like I was just saying, and like you probably know too, there's a lot of people that spend, good portions of their day on this stuff. And it could take up, if you add it up in the amount of time you've been doing it for, it could even be months or years of your life, depending on how old you are.
Yep.
So anyways, Heather, we really appreciate you having you on. Thank you again. Thank you so much for doing this podcast. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, thank you. It's been great. And
yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for tuning into this Buff Talk Live. For Heather Nielsen, I'm Old School Matt. Thank you guys for watching. Hey guys, thank you guys for checking out this video. Make sure to go check out all of our other podcasts, Buffalo Barbecues, our Buffalo workouts, and also a slew of other things, including challenges and whatnot. So make sure to check out all of these different things. Thank you guys for watching. I am Old School Matt here, and this is Water Buffalo TM. Peace.